And I guess the purpose of like why we wanted to talk to you is I think you've been through a pretty interesting journey with Envoy, and even starting with PikaPix all the way through to.
This is what I'm going to be known for forever. I'm going to literally be known for this forever. I love it. I love it. This is great. I was 11. I needed the money. It was like great, and I used Link Exchange at the time for the ad network. I wasn't allowed to receive money. It was wonderful.
Yeah, so very excited to I think trace that journey and try and unpick some of those lessons I think that you've uncovered across a bunch of businesses: Google, Twitter, Shopify, obviously Envoy. And like I think we've got a couple of like spicy questions in here as well that we want to talk to you, because I think you've been through some difficult times as well. And so like feel free to be as honest and transparent as you can, and also of course like if there's questions that you think we've missed or you'd like us to potentially address, let us know. I think we saw a bunch of questions come through earlier as well. Some suggestions from you, which we've tried to incorporate as well.
Yeah, no worries at all. Happy to try to answer whatever possible.
Yeah, awesome. Hey, so why don't we start a little bit about with where it started with Envoy specifically. I think I've heard you talk about your parents' journey. It sounds like a very wild ride to finally end up in Canada, and then your studies in the US, and your experiences with PikaPix. And
you have to bring that up every time.
Yeah. Honestly, I love the fact that I didn't have to go in the Wayback Machine to find it.
No, I restored it. I brought it back. No, I brought it back. It's it had to require a lot of stuff. Like there's all this like JavaScript that was definitely not compatible with the Netscape Navigator of the olden days, and it took some work. But yeah, so there's some stuff that doesn't work. Like there's no more forum. And I had to remove the full names of all the kids that sent in the graphics and all that stuff, because it's I think the child safety laws have tightened up in the last 20 years. So it's it does work. It does work. It still uses frames, but yeah,
it's awesome though. I enjoyed playing tic-tac-toe with Meowth. It's been a while. So yeah, it was great.
Yeah, that's right.
Hey, so I'm interested in the experience of the problem, that sparked the creation of Envoy. So, you've worked at, Google, Twitter, and I think following those experiences, crafted and started building Envoy. But can you talk us about that personal experience with that problem that you had, and then what eventually led to founding Envoy?
Yeah. So, I mean, at the end of the day, people are going to be most passionate about the things they do when it directly impacts them somehow. So it's for the story with Envoy was actually very simple. It was one where I was at Google. Google was, this 2005, so back in my day. And it's just there's all these people. It's like La La Land for engineers. There's just lights everywhere. There's colorful everything everywhere. And you're kind of in this wonderful place. It's magical. But the thing about it is that it's also very thought through, and it's very high tech, because it's a bunch of engineers that were basically really enjoying engineering, and they wanted to make the best of everything that they could. So Google just basically being a cash printing machine, you could have these engineers that work on a lot of other things other than the core, let's just say, ads product. And some of them decided to get together and work on different things, like a visitor management system, a meeting room thing, a way of planning for a bus schedule, a way to see the food. They even put a camera on the t-shirt closet so you can know when they restock it, so you can get more free shirts that with Google written on it. So it's kind of this was really interesting, because it's this world where they built a lot of this stuff internally because they had the talent and the people and the time, I guess, to do it. Now, when I went from Google to Twitter was 40 people. Now, we barely had a payroll system when I joined, and there was a lot of stuff. The locks weren't really working on the doors that we had there. It was a very early days of Twitter, and 2009. And basically what was going on there is you would kind of everything, if you needed something, you needed to do it yourself. There was no it's not going to get done for you. So basically what happened is I noticed a stark contrast of, Google had all this wonderful stuff, but Twitter kind of should have all this wonderful stuff. They care about their visitors on the website. They care about their brand presence. Why aren't they investing in the same systems that Google did? Well, I didn't know at the time, but like they didn't have people to build these things. It doesn't grow on trees. So at Google, it kind of did. So it's like the point is that it's Google could invest in their people, it could invest in the products and like this not in house thing. And it basically got people to build some really great stuff that was very helpful for them. So by the end of my time at Twitter, I was kind of like, I bet you if we built a company that just built these tools that these companies like Google, but also Facebook, Apple, a bunch of others, Square was the one that finally called it. And it was like, okay, this is getting a little bit ridiculous. These companies keep on rebuilding the same things over and over, things that I saw back in 2005. And that's what sparked the idea that like, hey, let's start a company to build workplace products. And that's really what got it going. I seeded it with some initial friends that were operating workplaces and in like the companies I knew. You get to know a lot of people by working, I guess, at Google and like Twitter. Although at the time I would have never known. But when I needed them, I just went up to them and was like, hey guys, like look at this. And they're like, oh, this is really cool. And company after company would implement it. And what happened is people saw it at one company. They're like, ooh, this is pretty cool. They also kind of had to sign in, so like they were forced to use it. And then they're like, oh, this wasn't absolutely terrible. And then they brought it to their own company. And it's that cycle that has gotten us now into it. It's crazy amounts of offices, like over 15,000 offices worldwide. And it's now it's being used for lots more than just visitor sign-in, but it kind of started in a very viral motion. I think I think we're allowed to say viral now. I'm not sure. Like, I don't know if the pandemic's quite done yet, but it's like it's growing and it's exciting because it's this whole philosophy that the workplace is super underserved and the employee experience is really the big thing that there's opportunity in showing people that you care about them and that they're like you want to spend time and money and effort on them and that's really what, especially in times like this now with like who knows what's happening with the economy and all that. Companies need to remind their employees that they really care about them and they want them to get to know each other better. So whatever we can do, I think is just like a big deal. I think that's, it's and we're excited. It's a changing environment, but it's just, we've been at it, changing whatever necessary all the time.
Yeah, awesome. I think the last two companies I've worked with have had Envoy systems deployed, and it's, I think the visitor experience, or the first time a guest comes in and is like, wow, like this is cool. I think that moment also, I think, has helped the companies I've worked with, even Airwallex, I think, build that relationship with that customer early on, or that prospect, or the client that's coming in. So it's been I think a really beneficial.
The first impressions matter a lot.
What were those early customer experiences like? Because I think you've talked about you were involved in onboarding and supporting, the first few customers. I'm interested in what was that early feedback coming through from, whether it was friends or early clients. And are you still, meeting and interacting with customers at the moment?
Yeah. It's a lot harder to meet with them at the moment just because some of them still haven't figured out their COVID strategy. But it's one thing I would say is like it's so important that if you do start a company or are working on something, that it's like you really survive by it. You're supposed to be surrounded by it all the time. You're supposed to be using it and seeing how people use it all the time. I would literally sit in the lobbies of these companies and I'd just be there all day. And like me and the receptionist would have like a deal. It's like, if anybody asks, just say like, I'm just like an interview candidate waiting for my slot or something. But literally what I was doing is just watching every single person, how they use it, where they get stuck, what's their expression on their face, why are they like that? And I think there's no better way than doing that kind of very intimate, like seeing what people are doing as the real driver for like, are you actually making things better? Or are you just like kind of saying it because it's like your product? And I think that reality made us discover so many different things about how things could be faster, better. Like there's like a printer thing. The printer took forever to connect to print stuff. So people are like, okay, cool, I'm done now. And they're like, no, you gotta wait for the badge. Okay, there it is. And it's like, it's that kind of thing that is like, you pick up on this and you have to be borderline maniacal at like just making sure you are doing the absolute best possible thing, because software is only software. Anybody, well, not anybody, but like a lot of people can write software these days. And if you're not writing stuff quickly, if you're not iterating, if you're not changing things, if you're not uncomfortable, you are not going to be able to compete in this world. It is just the barrier to entry is too low. And it's just like, it's actually kind of cool. You get really great software. And I'm a consumer software too. So like, I like that. Does it push us? Yes, it does. Is it a pain? Yes. but we get better products, and I do feel better about that.
No, that's amazing, and thanks for being candid. I'm sure it was a really difficult time, and yeah, obviously, I think you guys have come out in a really strong place, and obviously with the latest fundraising announcement and the continued growth and trajectory, it's been amazing. Interested in like how you sold the pivot internally. Like you were building this product, visitors. It was doing really well up until the pandemic. How do you then marshal the troops and get everyone excited about all of the other things that you needed to all the opportunity that you were starting to see? And I think the second part of the question is like your product velocity seemed to increase. Like you just seem to be shipping and reacting to like the changing dynamics, shipping new products and really supporting companies at a velocity that seems like, almost double the speed that you were running at prior to the pandemic. So how did the sell go internally of like, we need to build and we need to shift strategy? And then how did you get the incredible productivity out of the teams to deliver some incredible products in a short period of time?
Yeah, no, these are great questions because it's different for every company, but I would say that it was clear that something was going on in the world, so people were expecting something unusual. If we were to basically just about anything that we said at that point, it was like we didn't like the world was kind of going crazy, and like people didn't really know what the answer is to anything. So they're like, all right, well, do I have credibility in our leadership? If yes, then I'm going to follow and keep going. And like the ones that did, I think did really well. I think it's also really hard as well for the like making confident decisions given just so little data. But in our case, it was based on just it's like we actually had these two it was kind of there was a deciding point where we're like, do we continue doubling down on visitors? Because as a company that's growing, you're always behind on like your feature set and like your bugs. You're always complaining about all these different problems about your own product and like you got to make it better. And finally, we have some time. But the other side was like, guys, if this pandemic keeps going, like we need to be appealing to it because like visitors is not going to drive our success in a pandemic. Almost all of our competitors that were on the visitors side ended up they're not independent entities anymore. And it's kind of like I think that some of them tried pivoting a little late, but like we took a big risk that could have been a huge distraction, and they would have built a lot more functionality that we didn't get to. But the bet was right that the companies are going to need ways of bringing their employees back, and we could repurpose the visitors product. So now it's about like, all right, so we pitched that, and like internally people got it. It was honestly the confidence that got it. Like I think I don't remember like coming up with a list of rational reasons why one's right and the other's not. It's just like we're just like, yeah, we're going to do this. We think it's a really good idea. Here's a bunch of customers that are asking for exactly the thing we're going to do, and it's an experiment. Let's try it out. And that's all people need to kind of be like really excited and motivated. At the end of the day, it's just confidence and inspiration. It does get a little bit like as we kept building though, like it did pick up and the velocity picked up. Now it's not all like there's downsides to velocity. There's huge downsides. Like the tech that went up dramatically, a lot of that messaging was also like we would post a new thing every like kind of 2 or 3 weeks about like, oh, we're committed to solving COVID issues in the workplace. Okay, we now have an alpha build. We're reaching out to you if you could be part of it. Okay, it's beta now. You can sign up. Here's a text box, but we won't actually invite you until a future time. And it's like, hey guys, prepare for we used every opportunity possible to keep top of mind and to remind people that like you have some help if you want to go back to your office in a way that's been at least mostly thought through given the amount of customers that we had. But again, it's also like at the end of the day, the customers are also very much looking for like, I want to work with somebody who has thousands of companies on their books and like is iterating with them. So I think that also like the feedback direct from customers being piped directly basically to like engineering was very, very helpful. And our product teams are of course running around trying to organize it all. Marketing teams are trying to figure out what's real, what's not. Sales teams were trying to adapt based on what like everybody was changing something about their business. And I think it's just like across the board, people figured it out. Like it was when you have a lot of your existing customers really adamant around one area of stuff and you reiterate it, it really, really does work. So yeah, but there's of course all sorts of problems. Again, like there's like tech debt, like there's a lot of systems. Like you don't just launch a desking or you don't just launch an employee's product from a visitor's product. Like for a while we had like the visitors database table was containing employees in it. and it like screwed up all of our analytics, and we had to like change all of our analytics or type equals visitor for the visitor log instead of the employee log.
I get the sense you have you feel a sense of responsibility and accountability to your team to deliver, right? Like, where's that stemming from? Like, were you always, from day one, as this founder CEO, feeling that responsibility? I mean, you mentioned you've been vested for a while. You're still here. You're still building. It's been a number of years, in the role. Like, what's continuing to drive that sense of accountability and responsibility?
Yeah, honestly, it's a lot of people tell me I'm very optimistic, which is very interesting because I think of myself as exactly the opposite. Like, I'm always looking for the problems and things. I'm always like, it's like, no, this is like, that was too easy. What do you mean? What do you mean we went up 20% last month or last quarter? Like, what do you mean that's up 20%? How did we do that? I want to know exactly what we did to go up 20%. Like, and then people are like, geez, Larry, like, try to celebrate for once. And it's like, I don't know. I think there's like this is typical engineering, wants to tune and like keep making things better and better. I think a lot of it comes like a lot of hard work. I think my parents like brought me up in a way where it's like hard work is the like key thing. Here they are. I didn't tell the whole story here, but it's like you have the born in Romania, including me, and like I got out of there. We went to like Germany. They couldn't get visas because it was like this whole Ceausescu thing. So they got like my mom was like cleaning houses as a maid, and my dad was like picking berries. Both of these people, like, I think both of them had some form of masters in like a highly specialized technical field. And then they're just like, yeah, I guess I got to do this now because we got to make ends meet. Like, I think that there's something about just always wanting better, even if it's, and doing whatever it takes. And when you combine those, I think it gets really good stuff. But I don't know, these days, what motivates me is just the opportunity. It also motivates me to see a lot of people around the office again. I feel like that is one of the biggest motivators and one of the most exciting parts and really what gets me out of bed. I think a lot of people kind of paint CEOs. Usually, I don't know if it's always wrong, but like, their paint CEOs as a very like kind of money motivated, money driven thing because that's usually what they're talking about whenever they have their quarterly reports or something. But I don't know, man. Like I really like the people. I really like people like discovering what they can do and build and iterate on and solve things. I think it's even better in person. Like reading about it is one thing, seeing it in person is a whole different world. So call me like petty for liking like very simple things, but yeah, I don't know. And like, it's fitting I have a workplace company because it's also kind of like, this is the best way to optimize it. Now, try to get people in here a few more days than currently, and that's a whole riot. But like, we're working on it and we're trying to show everybody the benefits and all that stuff. And honestly, there's so much more that they could be enjoying to their life and work, especially if they just give their team a little bit more of a shot. But I think the whole world is struggling with this. I have complex views on like why the stock market is the way it is and how companies are going to recover. I think it involves a lot of people together. But hey, maybe crises can be solved in pajamas. I'm only kidding. We love our everybody.
I've got a question in here about Twitter and Elon Musk because as an early employee, I'm fascinated by your views. We'll get to that in a bit. I've been, I think a lot of what you're saying is resonating. I work for an infrastructure first CEO at the moment, and that constant like tweaking and like what's next, like that kind of mentality of optimizing always is one that I think really resonates and I think you'd get along handsomely with Jack, our founder.
An infrastructure CEO. That's like that's a highly nuanced version of a CEO. I like that. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, I think Jack and everything we do at Envoy, it's like infrastructure first. We're always, let's build the pipes and make it work, and then think about how we take it to market. Interested, like, how do you build your leadership skills? How did you you've had a core strength in engineering systems, like you've been a developer for a while. You're running a team with operations, sales, marketing, and that's grown and evolved over a number of years. So how are you upskilling and understanding sales methodologies and marketing strategies and go to markets? And Envoy's in so many countries around the world, like different cultures that you have to navigate and do. Like, what's that process look like for you?
Yeah. No, it's definitely a challenge. I mean, great engineers are going to always want to be learning, and that's just like one of the in the game of dice, that one ended up as like one of the talents I have around wanting to learn more about literally everything. It drives my execs nuts, might I add, like, because there's an alternate world where this is the majority of the world, where asking someone why they're doing something or to explain why they're doing something is actually a very bad thing to do because it implies that you don't trust them. So it's kind of like, no, I totally do. And I appreciate it more than ever. That's why I'm asking. If I didn't trust you, I didn't care, I'd be like not talking to you and I'd be like somewhere else or something. Like, it's because I'm excited and interested and I want to help. But I think it's just like that's part of it. Like, I've known that this was a problem with myself since like a long time. I mean, you saw it as a kid in like in different ways. But yeah, you gotta adapt to human stuff, and it's not easy because it's kind of like you want everything to be rational. You want to solve everything. You want to like have like a repeatable process that can scale it. But it's also like people are not that way. Now you can optimize, you can get closer, and I'm on that fight and journey to like discover how to make it super super optimal. But yeah, there's a lot of people related stuff that is not easy for somebody like me. And then, of course, everybody comes from their own world, so they don't understand others. So, they don't understand me, but I also don't understand them a lot of time. And it took me a while to like even understand that others could like think differently and not be as, it's like, why are they being so irrational? Don't they realize that that's ridiculous what they're saying right now? But it's like, oh no, they just don't value that. And it's like, oh, interesting. Or they don't prioritize that. They could, but they also realize that it's really takes a long time to make good decisions. And sometimes we don't have time. So yeah, it's this kind of stuff that really gets me interested and excited. And I mean, it's almost like you can't survive long in this job if you don't like if you're not kind of into like big problems. Yeah, I think it's just like they don't last because it's just like it's really damn hard and everything seems existential and everything's like about how you suck and it's just like, man, like could it not appear as like negative? Like I would love a nice, happy, easy day. But you get that over time, like you get used to it, you get to realize that it's not nearly as bleak as it looks. And it's like, they don't at all hate everything and like want everything to crash and burn. And it takes time. Yeah, so that's the thing. But it's just like, I don't know, I've been enjoying that skill. Like I get into 50% less arguments with my parents whenever we're on vacation. And I would say that's moving mountains because like we would get in arguments for random reasons. Like, why is the light on? And it's been on, but no one's in the bathroom. Like there should probably be a person in that bathroom right now if that light's on. But like now it's you can be much more diplomatic about those kinds of things. So at the end of the day, it's to really maximize the vacations, really. So I guess at the end of the day, we all want the same thing, huh?
No, how do you build that understanding in your team, right? Like whether it's your execs or the broader, even junior employees at Envoy. Like I think they might get the wrong perception of you. Like if you're asking someone why and they see that in a meeting, that they might not know the context or even the trust that you have with your execs and the fact that that's a normal thing. How do you manage that kind of environment where junior people may not have the full context of actually this is a normal, healthy thing that, you know, Larry and his execs are engaged in? What's your process to convey that context?
Yeah, it's really tough because a lot of there's like this whole curve about this where it's like the amount of information you know, the amount of information you think you know, and then it's like the amount of confidence you have around that. And it's like this weird counterintuitive thing where it's like the less you know, the more confident you are that you know what you're doing. So it kind of gets you to make these decisions like these people don't know what they're doing, like but it's like, no, they kind of don't know what they're doing. They know a little bit of what they're doing, and that's actually sufficient to operate a company. But like, it's actually a really big disconnect with a lot of new employees. Like, you see this all the time in like new managers when somebody gets like kind of they choose the path of management. They kind of like you'll see these versions of people where like some people will be like they want to be super liked and like no, your people actually want you to push them. You just don't be bad about it. But it's these kinds of things that it's like you gotta. It's people just have to learn, and that's why years of experience in management is actually like not a terrible metric. As long as the person is capable of learning and that they take things personally when they screw up, then it's like you got a good formula for a good person. But it's I think a lot of people don't learn as well, but that's a whole different story. But I don't know. Yeah, I think time. It's been 9 years I've been at this, and I got another 9 in me. So like, let's keep at it. But it's different problems, that's for sure. Also, as a company gets bigger, you hire stronger and stronger people that are very confident. That is one quality that just skyrockets as you hire more experienced. They have seen things. They've seen things to the point where they don't. It's like, oh, you're a little blip here. Don't worry about this. I know it looks like chaos, and it probably is, but we'll make it twice as good next time. And it's like that's the kind of thing that you get in really experienced people. There's also way less of them, so you got to be more careful. And it's like, yeah, there's all sorts of pieces to that. But yeah, I mean, it's just you have to show at the end of it. Also, by the way, it does help that they see when I'm treating one person one way, they're like, oh, hey, that's what he did to me. So it's like a little bit that I think they like. I think the word is commiserate, but I think these days it's been much better. I had a coach. I think it's very important that people have coaches. They're not that much. They are a lot of money, but like in the big span or picture of things, it's not. It's negligible for the amount of value that you get. And remember, a coach is really just you saying all the things that you wanted, but it's somebody else saying it, so you believe it. So that's a whole different thing. But yeah. It's a few. You can read some books and stuff. I literally, the laptop right now is propped on this, on one of the Ben Horowitz Hard Thing About Hard Things. Great book. He's got another one now. Plus, I think also like our board member, Andrew Chen, has a new book too.
You mentioned a comment of like finding people that take things personally when they screw up. I thought it was like what do you mean? What do you mean by that?
Yeah. No, that's a really interesting thing to home in on. So, I think pride is okay. So all the things that make people go crazy and do really bad things are also the things that make people do like move mountains and make the world like really an amazing place. So pride is a big part of it. Like if somebody is kind of like doing their job because like they're being told and they have no personal interest in it outside of it brings home the bacon, like it doesn't quite work. Like it's not that exciting. Like that person's not passionate about it. So it's kind of like looking for people that are doing their job because they want to leverage Envoy as a way of bettering themselves. That's different. That's somebody who like really wants to get better and they want the tool of Envoy to help them. Now, of course, the business will see value out of it and all that good stuff. But like, it turns out these people also will stick around if it keeps on delivering in a way that gives them more ability to take more risks and learn and that kind of thing. So pride is very important. An unrelenting way of wanting to accomplish something. I think there's also a careful tune of it's not ego because I think that implies bad. It's more like it's just like that kind of like persistence, stubbornness. You can imagine every single one of my grade school teachers told my parents about how Larry's very stubborn and won't do something unless like he thinks it's his idea. And it's like, I guess it takes one to know one, but like, it's just how it is. You gotta, that's the only way you can get through really tough decisions too. You're kind of doing it because you're like sure that you're going to be right. And if you're not, well, you're going to dig yourself a bigger hole. But people that are really persistent, eventually you make it. It's just, you have to be ready for it because it's very, it can get pretty graphic once you're like 2, 3, 4 like levels in and not delivering yet. But I don't know. I think it just like you just have to be committed and like really want to get better, and you have to realize that it is tough and not easy. And whatever you can do to get yourself in a situation to not make it easy to like leave something, I think is really important for people. Mortgages are a great way of doing that. Yeah,
that optimism that in the long run things will work out, and you like the persistence theme. I think really comes through your journey at Envoy.
Sure, well, that's true. There is optimism. I guess there is, yeah, because it's like I'm assuming it's going to work out and that's good. But I just kind of wish I could be a little bit more openly optimistic with folks. I think they'd like that.
No, it's almost like the two different ranges of motion: the long-term optimism that things will work out, and that short-term. Whether it's pessimism or like that focus on like how do we get better today? How do we get better today? Because I think that obsession that you have may yield the long term positive outcomes that you know are gonna come.
I want to be clear, by the way, we're talking an awful lot about me and my weird philosophies and stuff too. It isn't just like one guy that's like on the like high horse ivory tower. Like it's like, oh yeah, we will all be confident and we will protect to save us all from the evil COVID. Like that's not how it goes. what it is me saying that in like a half-baked way that then the rest of the team takes and is like, you know what, that's not terrible. Let's try to communicate this in a way to the rest of the people in the company so they don't like aren't horrified by what they hear. But that's why it's important to have like layers of people you really trust. It's about like making sure they understand you and what you're trying, and then also like hearing their thoughts on it and gathering the feedback. So it's absolutely a team effort, and it's like I know they all say that, but it's like literally it is. Because there's just no way otherwise. There's no way. I mean, we're 300 people today, and it's and growing, and it's kind of like it's not like you need those people. You need it because they provide an ecosystem for the others. This one supports this person when they don't want to do something, and because of the two together, it makes it even better. And it's like this is the kind of stuff that you need to have in a company where people really are working together to figure things out. Maybe there's a direction that's like, hey, that way. But like that's only the beginning of the gruesomeness that can come in the pandemic where you have to do whatever it takes. But yeah, I mean, even and I mean, they all have different things that they want to get better at. They all have things that you don't that are way better than you. And I mean, it's just combining it and seeing what works best. But yeah, it's definitely a team effort. I know it's like I'm the figurehead here, but it's not. It's not without them that we got through this. That's for 100% sure.
Thanks, Larry. I got a couple of closing questions because I know we're coming up to time. In April this year, so this is last month, you said that if you could invite anyone over for dinner, it'd be Elon Musk, right? And now, obviously, a lot has happened. A lot has happened since I think you made that statement. I think Elon's bought Twitter in that time. So, you were also an early employee of Twitter. So I felt like I compelled to ask you, what's your view on the acquisition and kind of the future of Twitter and its role in the startup and ecosystem and I guess broadly society at large?
Yeah. No, it's a great question because I think like, I don't know. I mean, I read this tweet once, and this is, of course, how the world works. But it's like I read this tweet once that said you don't bet against Elon. I think that that's really true, and it's kind of like you don't. Now, is he going to make mistakes? Absolutely. Is it going to be like a complete mess? Yeah. Is it going to be super interesting? Yes. And is it? Do we have a much bigger chance of getting the world to communicate much more freely with each other and in a way that's like less full of ads and less full of like weird stuff that companies have to do? I think so. That company has a lot of really well-intentioned people that all want to do their best. And I think it's just like a little bit of change isn't the end of the world. And I think that somebody like Elon is somebody that a lot of really smart people will follow. So there's going to be a lot of great talent joining that company that may have chosen something else in the past. And I think that that's something to be excited about. And I don't think any one person is going to save anything, but I think that attracting multiple people together through somebody like Elon, as crazy as it is, literally the day of announcing his thing that he's going to own the company, he's like, do we remove the W in Twitter? Yes and absolutely were the two options. There's no. It was just yes and absolutely. It's just like this guy literally is spending $40 billion on this company, and this is the kind of tweets that he has. But I think that that's not your typical like sleazy salesman that's trying to like steal money from everyone. I think that this is like a next level thing that people are too quick to kind of judge. And yeah, I don't know. I think he's just like, I think he's very interesting, but he's human like the rest of us. And I'm sure it's anybody's guess how it's going to go. But I think I would love some more things to come out of there. I think it's going to be exciting. Maybe less spam bots too. That'd be fun.
Nice. No, thanks. And I guess like two final questions. One, for first-time CEOs, you've been a first-time CEO and kind of grown and built a company. What advice do you have for people who are, I guess, starting out the founding journey and building a product, trying to find product market fit? They've got 1,000,001 problems. What did you find valuable early on in your journey?
Oh, there's so much, but it's always like on the spot. It's always hard. I just think people need to, don't give up on things. Don't ever give up on things. It really is the thing that kills companies. Companies don't kill companies. People kill companies, and it's the people that give up that kill companies. And it's just like, you can make it. you're just going to go through a really crappy time for the next few months. And it's always like that. And if you really have ambition, like, you will figure it out. That's the piece. And it's just like, be open to learning, and make sure you're hiring people that like to learn too. And don't ever compromise on talents. Because that's, you're going to tell yourself that you're still going to compromise, but like, you're going to still, like, as long as you keep fighting for like the best you possibly can, that helps a lot. You're also going to make all the mistakes you promised yourself you would never make. Every single one of them, every single one, you're like, oh no, I know better than that. No, you don't. No, you don't. You're going to get hit it just like all the rest of them. And you're going to like it. And you're not going to tell anybody about it either, because the rest of them aren't talking about it either. So it's just like, you're going to do all the same things everybody else does, but like, the ones that survive are the ones that keep at it and are constantly learning and looking for an environment of learning. And stop pointing fingers at other people. That's not helping anyone. Always look for why it's your fault, why something went wrong. The customer is always right is like the most simple way of putting it, because it doesn't matter if they're wrong. They usually are. They're not. They're actually quite right. And it's like, it doesn't matter. They shouldn't be thinking that, and that's your fault. So it's like, having that mindset is, I think, really, really important. It's an interesting combo of that mindset and pride, where it's like, no, I'm the best, but also like, no, it's all my fault. It's a tornado, but it's a good tornado, and everybody wins as a result, as long as you're on a great mission.
That's really helpful. I think it's funny, like, honestly, like, I think one of the things I've been struggling with is like, we're restructuring our sales team internally, and like, I think I got like Frank Slipman, like the Snowflake CEO, like, everyone has this thing of like, fire fast. Ben Horowitz, read The Hard Thing About Hard Things, fire fast, like, don't compromise on talent. And it's hard. It's so hard in the moment.
Yeah. It's like, I'd like to see the numbers on these people too. Like, are they actually doing that? Like, I think there's also a thing that you kind of tell yourself, and like, it helps you kind of do the thing a little bit more, but you're also not doing it. It's like, do the thing fast. Well, more like less than, a little bit better than slow. Is what it turns out to be. But it's kind of like, you still need to say that kind of stuff. And it's kind of like repeating the same message. You got to keep, in order for people to get something, you have to like keep telling them, like, literally until they tell you that, please stop telling me this. You've told me about 100 times. It's very rare I get that from anyone about anything. And that's just a sign that I'm not repeating things enough. And like, it's just, repetition is a great way of looking at this too. Like, all the best practices, but like, you repeat them as if you know what you're talking about. But it's a lot.
No, for sure. And then the last question, I guess, usually a closing question. If you could give yourself one piece of advice at the start of your career, what would that be? And honestly, your career started a lot earlier than most people at 17 as a professional at Google. So, like, I mean, going back to your 17-year-old self, joining Google and the incredible, I think, culture that existed at that time. Like, what do you wish you knew when you were 17 and starting your career?
It's such a tough one. Go back in time and like, keep Google great. It was a wonderful place. There's ball pits everywhere. There's like weird sleeping chairs. There's all these like happy people. And these days it doesn't seem as happy anymore. And I really liked it. And it's kind of like, it was so inspirational at the time. And there's like amazing people everywhere. There probably still are some of those folks. And I love everyone there. But no, if I could go back in time, it's just like, I don't know if I would do all this again. It's like a lot. Like, wowee, there's so much learning in the time, and it's kind of like, but I don't know. It's just, you can't. That's being rational. Like, if you're irrational, you're gonna be like, no, I want it because it needs to exist, and then you literally are gonna go through the worst of the world just so you can make that happen. But that's just like what being human is, and it's like admitting to it, I think, is also very important. Otherwise, you're gonna not make better decisions. But yeah, so keep at it. That's it. And I guess I am still doing it, although. Whew.
Thanks, Larry. Hey, look, there are all the questions we had. Is there anything else you wanted to cover off? Like, I'd love for people to hear a bit more about where they can find you, whether it's on Twitter or email. Like, if you've got job openings in Envoy, there's anything we can do and the audience can give back to support you and your mission.
Yeah. So, I mean, Envoy.com, of course. We have a bright, colorful website. It's for everyone, not just the buyer. And then I'm on Twitter as well, twitter.com/LG. I had database access to be able to pull that one off, 3-character minimum normally. And then it's, I mean, this is just, those are the main places. I mean, I'm on LinkedIn and stuff, but don't add me unless you know me. You can find me on all those places. I'll have terrible jokes on Twitter. We're hiring, of course. We're supposed to be like 500 people by the end of this year. So we need all the help that we can get and people that are really passionate about workplaces. Yes, you will be in the workplace more than most companies of this, but you're going to do it for a good cause, which is to help everybody else have an easier time back and in a safe and happy way. So yeah, we're always hiring. Please feel free to reach out on any of those channels. Larry at envoy.com if you want to send me email that goes through 3 layers of filters.